The Voyage and the Vision, The Spice Trader's Tale of Magellan and Enrique by Stephen Stockwell. In Goa I found much mystery abounds, in bars and temples down dingy dark streets. New worlds emerge from all sights, smells and sounds, as happens to me when out seeking sweetmeats. I'm lost and find this tale I must tell of antique times and spice and fearsome feats. Near Panjim Market my nose caught a smell, aromatic, heady, sweet, sour and strong. Then straight away it has me in its spell, and down a dim-lit lane I'm dragged along, towards a shop which bafflingly beckons. Transported by that transcendental pong, I enter this old store in a second. Once there, time slows, but here's a stranger quirk. The shop is emptier than I reckoned, given the strength of its olfactorial perk. I'm lost in time mid bare shelves in the gloom. Then everything changes with a jerk. The shop comes alive, bright light floods the room. The empty shelves are now laden with spice. A man appears and says, as flavours fume, "I've nutmeg, pepper and cloves for a fair price. You've come from far for treats, this I do know. I have the grandest grains of paradise. Fine fennel, mustard, mace, I've seen them grow. There's cummin, cubeb, saffron, spikenard and turmeric, a touch the tang will show. This garam masala will goad the bard. My scrumptious cinnamon will make you rave. His manner's friendly, but his looks are hard. Glorious cardamom!" His voice turns grave. "Brave men have died for this treasure to taste. I see he's dressed as an artful old knave, doublet and hose and sword ready at waist. He's seen action aplenty, there's no doubt. He's travelled far and wide, and death he's faced. I've a story for you, it's about the trade in spice and men, and he who dared to find and first complete the round world route. Please sit," he says, chairs come from nowhere, around a table with a steaming pot, and try my herbs for sensation most rare. Cannabis sativa should hit the spot. Smiling he lifts a small green-filled glass jar and makes a tasty tea with the whole lot. I'll tell you of my journey from afar, and at the start of my exposition, I promise you the truth I will not mar. The real reason for my expedition? I was a country priest called heretic and sought by the Spanish Inquisition. I loved a wise woman, and her magic mundane showed me a mystic universe where God has faces both good and tragic. I preached inspired by the Kabbalah's verse and stood accused of satanic slander. My love hides me, I face torture or worse. They came at dawn, but warned by their banter, were on the track before they reach her shack, and through a sacred cave at a canter. We cross the river and do not look back, as helpful humble folk save us from ill, and soon the courier's cordon we crack. There's plenty adventure, many a thrill, two lovers free beneath the stars and sky. Then we come to the city of Seville, to seek our fortunes with new trades to ply. My love finds work as a wealthy man's nurse, and I'm a scribe, but undone by a spy and portrayed in a bar for a plump purse. I find the bishop needs a problem solved. My audience with the prelate is terse. My sins and crimes could be at once absolved if I do something simple for the king. If not, the Inquisition's soon involved. I gently ask, what is this simple thing? The bishop's brow broadcasts his deep disdain. My choice 6 months with poker, rack and sling, then death by flames, or fetch some spice for Spain. A fleet was ready to sail to the east under a practised Portuguese captain, who had an urgent need for one more priest. I could have death by torture if I chose, or I could sail today, avoid the beast, find fame and fortune while keeping my toes. I chose to sail and leave behind my suite. That afternoon I dress in priestly clothes, and while the pinnace takes me to the fleet, I write a farewell letter to my dear, pledging reunion and love complete. 1519 was the year, and 20 September the day we sailed from San Lucar across the ocean clear. 6 days to Tenerife, good winds prevail. The captain's Magellan, his Trinidad goes first, and in her wake 4 ships' proud tale. Conception, Victoria and Ad, Santiago and San Antonio, well armed with 12 score men, first I feel glad. There's naught to fret nor fear where'er we go. Then to the captain's cavern one dark night I'm called, and learn more than I need to know. He has a sphere, and in the dim dull light, with glistening eyes tells me the world is round. We'll sail on west until the east's in sight. Don't tell the men, this tale's too profound, but greater yet is your work at God's sleeve. You'll baptize heathens, make much holy ground. Be bishop of the East, I do believe, but first I need your help, this is your test. There's mutineers, tell me what plots they weave. This was my lot, I found that I was pressed, twin a crazy captain and a querulous crew, though friendship with the captain's man was blessed. Enrique of Malacca was wise and knew the captain's mood from 8 years as his slave, and how to keep him on a course near true. He's from the East, what he most did crave was freedom to return to kin and home, a path the captain's will promised to pave. South from the Canaries we slowly roam, the weather's bad, there's either storms or calm, Cape Verde just past, then Sierra Leone. We live on shark, which does morale some harm, but mostly our slow progress causes strife, and some among the Spanish crew take arms. When Enrique can't find a sharp kitchen knife, I warn the captain that there's plans to fight. He grabs the ringleader, but spares his life, puts him in stocks to show mercy and might. Across the equator the ship turns west, and from the masts St. Elmo's lights do quiet the seas, then bring good winds at his behest. 2 months have passed when Cape St. Augustine comes into view, and soon we have a rest in Rio de Janeiro, with folks keen to embrace Christ and trade cheap trinkets for sweet and succulent boosts to our cuisine. Pineapple, potato, fish, fowl and more. The captain has a sodomite strangled to maintain morale and respect for the law. Meanwhile the crew rude Christmas cheer wrangled by swapping axes for a brace of girls, and Saturnalian joys triangled. The next day dawns, and as our sails unfurl, fond fathers gather to bid their daughters adieu. But while the fleet fast onwards whirls, the girls are back at family quarters, and though their fathers give chase in canoes, they think they have a deal. Quickly waters separate us, and they can only choose to return to blemished daughters and wives, scornful of new axes and fickle crews. South down the coast our fair fleet tacks and jibes. Most think we'll ride winds east to the rich Spice Isles, but we follow water that westward strives. It soon turns fresh, the captain's temper riles. Rio de la Plata is no plump prize for us, though later it'll make wealth in piles. The crew becomes aware the captain lies. He will not take the roaring 40s east, down past Good Hope and on. Instead he tries any creek west. They think he's mad at least. Enrique alone remains healthy and hale. His port and penguin pies keep crew quite pleased. The storms get worse the further south we sail. We take an Easter break in Porto San Julian, where our venture almost fails. Pigafetta, the captain's scribe and fan, goes foraging food for a paschal feast, at which the captain announces his plan. To winter there, then sail west to the east. His lieutenants are gathered at his table. They voice disdain, they mutiny like beasts. Hubris and bravado are capable of messing with men's minds and their reason, but Enrique thought only mushrooms able to produce such a cruel killing season. He blames the scribes found food for what transpires. In short order there is death and treason. The rogue commanders meet and then conspire to take the captain's cousin's ship that night. By morning 3 ships' guns are aimed to fire at Magellan, but he does not show fright. He sends a letter of fake contrition off to the ringleader who is least bright. Absorbed by the captain's composition, the rebel lets the mailman stab his throat. Traitors are nabbed, and facing extinction, make pleas for mercy, yet still headless bloat on sticks along the beach. I'm more concerned a priest is marooned on an isle remote to starve, 'cause what in confession he learned was not passed on to the captain with dispatch. It means more work for me while my mind churns over the dangers that to penance latch. Then winter comes, spared rebel scrape holes clean. Now hunger's here and we find few fish to catch. One day a giant arrives on our bleak scene, singing and dancing along the seashore. The captain sends Enrique to likewise preen. Friendships blossom, his tribe trades food and more, until the captain puts two giants in chains to take them back to Spain, and that means war. The giants fight back, freedom flows in their veins, and when our man is shot by them and dies, our party puts their paltry huts to flames. The giants run off. Enrique and I decry killing these folks, leaving their world ablaze. We'll find these things the captain's end imply, as cruelty heavy on the doer weighs. The captain sends the Santiago on to search west for a strait. In a few days they find Santa Cruz Bay with penguin, prawn and fish aplenty. Returning not far, a violent storm takes them hither and yon, until they run aground on a sandbar. The ship sinks, but by divine providence all men are saved without even a scar. Two scouts walk back through the wilderness most dense, and Magellan sends a rescue party. Enrique now sees a chance to prevent tense times with the giants and offers feasts hearty at Santa Cruz Bay to convince the boss to move the fleet forward and most smartly. We spend the rest of winter there, no loss, as Enrique has his way with fresh sturgeons. Come spring, 4 ships sail on and quickly cross the Cape of 11,000 Virgins, where storms and luck suck 2 ships west through deep if narrow waters, where much salt burgeons. At last the strait is found, and so we keep on sailing through treacherous channels, riding the raging tides midst mountains steep. And though the San Antonio rebels and sneaks away, 5 weeks' navigation brings us at last in sight of ocean swells. The captain's tears of gratification don't dim his delectation of the view of boundless seas and great expectation. 3 ships sail out across this ocean new, so calm Magellan calls it Pacific. Northwest we ply, believing that in 2 weeks we'll find Spice Islands most prolific. There's whistling on the decks and joy at heart. Our future's bright, prospects are terrific. But weeks turn into months, and with no chart we lose our way. No land or food is found, no sniff of spice, our journey falls apart. We eat old biscuit full of grub and pound on leather hides that we then chew for meat. We eat sawdust, buy rats for half a crown, drink stinking yellow water for a treat. Slowly it dawns that God's forsaken us. We've sailed over the world's edge, and this heat can only mean that hell has taken us. We see 2 isles to which we make much haste, but there's no water to awaken us, no fish, nor fowl, nor fruit, just barren waste. Our minds are weak, visions come to haunt us. 4 horsemen scream on by, hell's hounds fast pace the deck, and demon hordes come to taunt us. The captain raves about his own new creed. Just Enrique holds that nothing should daunt us. Scurvy strikes down many, gums rot and bleed, but Enrique's eastern law is useful since he's bought the balm for scurvy which we need. Cane de membrillo, preserved dried quince. He hands it out in shares fair and entire. Those who take it survive, and he's their prince, and those too proud who spurn his help expire. Other good things are, trade winds push us west, and the crew's too sick to plot and much conspire. At sea 3 months and 20 days, our test goes on until we find landfall in Guam, where locals swarm aboard and roughly wrest all metal goods they can carry without much charm. We are still weak, but oppose their looting. 1 local dies, the rest avoid such harm, but take the captain's skiff with much loud hooting as they scoot back to shore. But then, next day, the captain leads a band of men shooting. 50 huts burn, many locals dead lay. Bananas, yams and water are gathered. Some ask to turn human bodies to prey. But I say that to God this sin mattered, so we don't become cannibals that day. Deprivations left our morals tattered. West to the Philippines we find a bay, no people there, but lots of food, water and time for the men to rest, repair and play. 10 days in paradise eating porker, then locals row in to trade trinkets for bananas, coconut and palm porter. With health improved, on west we now explore, and meet a tribe who speak Enrique's language. Proof, spice and success are on a near shore. The captain and their king do not languish, becoming brothers they call me for mass, and many there convert without anguish. The captain's craziness then comes, alas. We skip the Spice Isles and our plans turn sour. We head north for more Christians to amass. In Cebu's Bay we show our ship's power with guns ablaze. Enrique talks to their king, promises wealth and peace, and in an hour Rajah and captain are blood exchanging. Perhaps it's fear, yet friendship finds fruition. Our trade is brisk, connections wide-ranging, and soon the Rajah seeks urgent baptism. His court follows, and then his people too. The captain, in his zeal for religion, says he will heal the Rajah's brother's flu by faith and setting old idols aflame, staking his head on a miracle true. The man is healed, which spreads the captain's fame, so next he's lured into a local fight on Mactan, where one chief, Zula by name, seeks help to put his nemesis to right. This Lapu-Lapu spurns both Christ and Spain, yet Magellan believes that the mere sight of our fierce fleet would cause him to refrain from further affray, though Lapu-Lapu treats our entreaties with complete disdain. 50 men don armour and load guns too. The captain leads them to the beach, but found 1,500 tribesmen ready there who see our armour does not go to the ground, so throws their spears at undefended legs, and our scanty squad they quickly surround. One round of fire from us has few effects, our parties greatly outnumbered by those with training, skill and little fear of death. Our men fall back, the captain onward goes, until bogged in sand he's speared in the head. The ocean he named is where his life flows. The captain's demise fills me with dread. I've heard the crew confess, I know their hearts, and that Magellan alone was the thread that kept these men from falling into parts. What passes next provides proof of plenty of how social disintegration starts. Barbosa and Serrano from 20 hopefuls are picked to lead. They tell Enrique the captain's will does free him, but any hope of liberation is truly bleak. Until return to Spain he will remain under the orders of the ruling clique, flogged if he complains or from work refrains. Enrique then hears them plot behind closed doors to sack Cebu and end the Rajah's reign. As he is bid, he goes ashore for stores, but slips away to brief the local king about the crew's plans and to settle scores. Enrique informs the Rajah of the sins that he has seen the Europeans wreak, and says that Cebu soon would bear their sting. This new command wants to prove they're not weak, and free of Magellan's firm guiding hand, they'll attack Cebu for the slaves they seek. Enrique's advice, move first and take a stand. The Rajah thus invites the new leaders and 20 of their trusted aides for grand feasting to cement bonds with full beakers, and jewels to take back to the King of Spain. Dessert is served by men wielding cleavers. There is much blood, but I avoid the pain. The Rajah's brother calls me quick away. Enrique's made sure this new Christian will fain need to discuss the Trinity that day. The Rajah seeks to ransom Serrano, but former friends who grab command won't pay. Too keen to take his share of profits, though after piracy and losing 2 ships, the captaincy falls to the wise Juan Elcano, who builds up funds with lucrative side trips, then steers Victoria to Spain again, with loads of cloves 16 months hence. His lips confirm the tale from Pigafetta's pen, the genius of Magellan and how his careful just command inspired men. But above all, what few now disavow, his claim to first circumnavigation, pure fabulation dressed as sacred cow. Enrique and I are free, celebration, showing due regard for the Rajah's rank. We saved Serrano from expiration, and with many thanks are the toasts we drank. We have the Rajah's blessing to move on. We ride a dhow with an Arab most frank about his plans to trade in cinnamon, mace, nutmeg and the rest. He's impressed by Enrique's nous and takes us to Ambon, where connections are made in trade with zest. Serrano thinks he should be the captain to find the fleet, kill a few, lead the rest back to Spain with spice and wealth to obtain Magellan's claim. But in a game of chance with Portuguese hardmen his luck is strained. The page of cups he needs is down Enrique's pants. The Portuguese say he'll work off his debt, their man. He never knows who nixed his plans. The Arab wins, and with the pot he gets coins from the loot of Kilwa, a rich port near Zanzibar that spurned Agama's threats of tax, but by surprise attack was caught and sacked. The Arab blames the Portuguese as he rejects their bets. The moment's fraught. They're keen for sport. They reach for their swords but freeze. Enrique diverts from the Arabs' disgust, greeting newcomers by picking their fleas. We're saved by mocassins we come to trust. They teach us their trade in sea cucumber, the texture and taste for which the Chinese lust. With them we sail south, leagues without number, and come at last to Terra Australis, where between drying slugs and deep slumber we meet locals whom we do not distress, as they find it's funny that one would eat this slimy beast. We agree, we confess. Friendship blooms as we share kangaroo meat, and in return we give them Kilwa coins and warn them of the men who come in fleets. We feast on shellfish and goanna loin, and learn the ancient law that binds their band. They teach us songs and dances we can join. Their wisdom soon we come to understand. We don't need much to have power on earth. Listen to the sea and land, use what's on hand. This new Kabbalah gave my journey worth, and skills to appear here with a message that time is fluid, but we have a dearth. From Terra Australis we take passage on to Makassar, where Chinese snap up our slugs. We make a pleasing percentage. Buying up spice and fine porcelain cup, next stops Malacca, Enrique's welcomed home, and there's many invitations to sup. Elcano and crew still have far to roam. The Victoria isn't halfway to Spain when Enrique's first round our starry dome. 10 years he travelled in Magellan's train, making his own circumnavigation, learning much knowledge both new and arcane. Traders buy some of our spice collation, and buoyed by the profit we three, Enrique, the Arab and me, make annotation of a partnership pact that's most unique. 3 races combined in mutual trust to trade from east to west, spice and things chic. Leaving Enrique to build supplies, we must sail to Ceylon for cinnamon and mace, and finally to Goa on a gust, where I become this emporium's face, trading o'er land and sea the world around. He stops, I see how fragile time and space are now. His voice takes on a shaky sound, as though he speaks down a long twisted pipe. It's time to end my tale, he says and frowns. I sent for my true love, she's now my wife. In her white wisdom she foresees your time, and sent me here to help you steer from strife. In 500 years there's been much more crime. The planet burns, the strong murder the weak. Disease spreads hate without reason or rhyme. My tale speaks for itself. It needs no tweak. Be free as giants, then listen to the land. Be kind, be fair, be sane, and freely speak. Care for the earth, for every grain of sand. Treat all creatures as friends, avoid hubris, and learn much from the death of Magellan, who knew the world was round but missed the twist. Folk are the same, all life is a marvel. Cruelty breathes death. Leave all free to exist, because the here and now is a portal to the best world we can make. Like Enrique, do all you can to flourish and sparkle. He's humble but firm as he seeks his peak. Back home, first around the world, quite unsung. He might look meek, but he has his own mystique. With that the old man fades, his spring has sprung. I'm in a room that's dark and deserted, but with the tang of spice still on my tongue. Out in the light I'm most disconcerted. The world for me is still quite inverted. I know strange powers have been exerted. The fabric of time has been diverted. So by the old men's words you're alerted to stop our planet being perverted.